Come in. We'd like to have you for dinner.
It is, it's polite, isn't it? Almost hospitable.
Yeah, right up until you realize that message is scrawled in runes on a heavy oak door deep inside a monster-infested canyon.
Exactly. And the dinner, well, the dinner is you.
It has to be one of the most famous and, arguably the best bad puns in the history of tabletop gaming.
God, absolutely.
But it's also the perfect hook for what we're unpacking today. Welcome to the deep dive. We're heading back into the caves of chaos today, specifically looking at Area F.
Right. Area F, the hobgoblin lair.
And for anyone who's played or run the classic module B2, the Keep on the Borderlands, the caves of chaos are basically this massive buffet of classic monsters.
Oh, yeah. You got your kobolds, your orcs, gnolls.
But the sources we're looking at today really single out Area F as something different. It's not just another hole in the wall where monsters sit around waiting to be looted, is it?
No, not at all. And I think that's really the mission of our deep dive today. We aren't just reading off a room list or checking a random encounter table. We really want to understand what makes the hobgoblin lair such a masterclass in low-level dungeon design.
Because they play completely differently than the others.
Exactly. If the kobolds are a nuisance and the orcs are just this chaotic brawl, the hobgoblins are a tactical exam. We are talking about a highly disciplined militaristic force here.
Right.
They understand defensive perimeters. They understand supply chains. And this is the part I really love. They understand eco-politics.
Eco-politics. I mean, in a basic dungeon crawl, that sounds a little academic for guys swinging maces around.
It sounds academic, sure, but in practice, it's just brutal. The source material, specifically the ecology notes and the defense strategies for Area F, it paints a picture of a tribe that is acutely aware of its neighbors.
Okay, so they aren't just in a vacuum.
Right. They aren't just standing in a 10 by 10 room waiting to get hit by a wandering fighter. They are actively guarding their flanks, they're bullying their weaker cousins, and they have a security system that acts more like a SWAT response than a random encounter.
That is a really fascinating way to frame it. So let's test those defenses right now. Let's start right at the front door. Because unlike the other caves in the canyon, you can't just stroll into this one.
Correct. And that is your first big signal as a player that the difficulty curve just spiked.
Yeah.
Most caves in the Borderlands have these gaping open maws, right? Open entrances where you can just peer into the gloom. Area F has a heavy reinforced oak door. And the text is very specific here. It is barred from the inside.
Which brings us back to that terrible pun on the sign, "Come in, we'd like to have you for dinner." It's a warning disguised as a joke. But mechanically speaking, how does a level 1 party actually deal with a barred door?
Well, that's the puzzle. The source material outlines two paths. A clever player, maybe a thief looking for traps, might look for a mechanism. There is actually a secret way to slide that bar from the outside.
Oh, really? Like a hidden latch or something?
Yes, but it's a 1 in 6 chance to find it.
Wow. 1 in 6?
Yeah, a very slim margin. Most adventurers simply aren't going to find that trigger unless they are incredibly lucky or just hyper-focused on investigation.
So if you roll poorly and don't find the secret switch, you just kick it down.
You can certainly try. But the module requires rolling 3 ones on a 6-sided die to force it open.
3 1.
On 3d6, yes. The odds of that are astronomical. It is incredibly difficult. But here is the real key insight from the text. Trying to force that door is incredibly loud.
And in a militaristic lair, noise is the absolute enemy.
Precisely. This is where the dungeon design really shines. Forcing that door triggers a highly specific alarm system. This isn't a DM rolling on a table to see if a wandering monster hears you. It's a dedicated response team.
Okay, let's break down that response team. We're looking at Area 26 on the map, which is the guard room. Who is waiting in there?
You have 6 hobgoblins. And I really want you to look at their loadout because it tells you everything about their doctrine. They are armed with crossbows.
Crossbows.
Yes. And the tactics here are completely scripted in the source. If that door rattles, they don't just charge out screaming with swords drawn. They wait.
Light ambush the door.
They set up a kill zone. They fire a volley of bolts the absolute moment the door breaches. Then, and only then, do they drop the crossbows and switch to maces for melee. It's a disciplined fire and maneuver tactic.
That is terrifying for a low-level party. I mean, you finally burst through the door, you're triumphant that you smash it open, and you immediately eat 6 crossbow bolts to the face.
Exactly. But there's another detail in the guard behavior that I think is even cooler. The text says that if the door is being battered while the players are still outside making all that noise, grunting and shoving, 5 of the guards rush to the entry to prepare that volley. But one of them runs the other way.
Ah,
The runner.
the runner. He goes straight to alert the chief. And the source notes actually give us a strict timeline. It takes 2 rounds for the guards to reach the entry.
2 rounds. That's fast.
It gives intruders a tiny window, maybe 20 seconds of in-game time to get that door open and get their bearings. If you fumble with the door for too long, you open it to find a squad of armored soldiers already in position waiting for you.
So time is a resource here.
It is the only resource that matters at the entrance. Speed equals safety.
Okay, so let's assume you survived the door and the welcoming committee. You enter the cave system proper. You move past the guard room and run into the common room, which is area 23. Now, usually, common room just means a place where the designer shoved 20 monsters.
Like the classic mob room.
But this feels very different. The layout seems intentional.
It definitely is. You have males, females, and young in here. It's a living space. But look at where the males are positioned. The text explicitly says they are posted to watch the east door.
Why the east door? We just came in from the south. Because the east door connects directly to the goblin lair, area D. This is exactly where that eco-politics concept comes into play. The hobgoblins are the big bullies on the block. They are guarding their flank against the goblins, who they consider their stupid cousins, as the text implies. But they also use that door to raid them.
So they're basically fighting a two-front war.
In a way, yeah. They have the front door for adventurers and the side door to keep the goblins in check. It tells a whole story about the dungeon ecology. The hobgoblins don't trust the goblins, and the goblins are definitely terrified of the hobgoblins. When you walk into that room, you're walking right into the middle of a tense domestic situation.
It really makes the place feel alive. It's not just monsters existing in a vacuum waiting for players to show up. But let's keep moving deeper. Past the common room, we hit a room with a very ominous name, Area 24.
Ah, yes. The source material calls it the torture chamber. But the hobgoblins, they call it the playroom.
The playroom. That is deeply disturbing.
It's super grim. And it's guarded by 2 very large, very ugly hobgoblins. But one of them is wielding something you almost never see at low levels in these old modules. A whip.
A whip. How does that even work in combat? Is it just for flavor?
Oh, no, not at all. It is a terrifying tactical weapon in this context. The mechanics are brutal. The whip can strike from 15 feet away, so he can hit you before you could even close the distance to swing a sword. And if it hits, it doesn't just do damage. It jerks the victim completely off their feet.
So you're not prone.
You're prone, but it gets worse. The hit actually stuns or paralyzes the victim for 1 to 2 rounds.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
for a first-level character, being stunned for 2 rounds is basically a death sentence.
Absolutely. You are on the ground. You can't act. You can't defend yourself effectively. And remember, the guy with the whip has a partner with a sword who is standing right there waiting for you to fall over.
So the whip guy sets them up and the sword guy knocks them down.
Precisely. It turns the combat from a simple slugfest into a tactical nightmare. You have to prioritize the whip wielder, or he will just shut down your party one by one.
But the real centerpiece of the torture chamber isn't the guards, is it? It's the prisoners.
Correct. There are 6 people chained to the wall in there. And this, to me, is one of the absolute best parts of the module. It feels like a logic puzzle disguised as a rescue mission.
A lodging puzzle? How so?
Because you can't just save everyone. Or rather, you really shouldn't. You have 6 potential allies or absolute disasters shackled up. Who you choose to free matters immensely.
Let's run through the roster because I think this is a perfect example of choices mattering in old school games. Prisoner number 1, the merchant.
Right. He's described as plump, and quite chillingly, he is scheduled to be eaten tonight at a banquet.
Talk about a deadline.
Exactly. If you save him, he's a gold mine, literally. He offers a 100 gold piece reward, which is nice. But the real prize is status. He gets you honorary guild status back at the keep. That means tax exemptions, no dues. For a strictly by-the-book player, this is the best long-term investment.
Okay, so he's the financial choice. Good to know. Prisoner number 2, an orc.
Now this is the trap.
Yeah.
New players, especially those used to modern, more nuanced storytelling, might think, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Maybe this orc hates the hobgoblins and will help us fight them.
That seems like a reasonable assumption.
And it is a fatal one. This orc is a captured enemy combatant. If you free him, he doesn't join you. He runs straight back to the orc lair in Area B to warn his tribe.
So you basically just alerted a whole other dungeon sector.
Exactly. You've just doubled your problems by trying to be nice. You free him, and suddenly you have orc reinforcements breathing down your neck while you're still dealing with hobgoblins.
That is brutal. Okay, then we have prisoners 3 and 6, the men-at-arms.
These guys are the pragmatic choice. They are the merchant's guards. They will actually serve you for 1 year in exchange for gear. If your party's looking a little squishy, or maybe your fighter took a bad hit in the guard room, these are the guys to grab. They are extra hit points and extra swords.
Nice and simple. Prisoner number 4, the wife.
The merchant's wife. Also on the menu for the feast tonight, by the way. Her reward is very specific, though. She offers a +1 dagger stored back at the keep.
A magic weapon.
Yes. And in these old modules, a magic weapon is worth its weight in diamonds. It's often the only way to hit certain monsters. It's a solid, tangible reward for doing the right thing and getting her out alive.
And finally, prisoner number 5. The source calls him the Crazy Knoll.
The combat trap. The text literally calls him a trick prisoner. If you free him, he doesn't run, he doesn't thank you. He snatches the nearest weapon and attacks you immediately.
Just immediately.
Right on the spot. So in one room, you have a financial reward, a magic item, 2 potential allies, a guy who will betray you to the orcs, and a guy who will try to kill you the second you unshackle him.
It's brilliant design. It forces you to stop and think. You can't just say, oh, I free everyone. You have to interrogate them, assess the situation, and decide. And you have to do it fast, because remember, there's a banquet scheduled for tonight. Every minute you spend debating is a minute closer to dinner time.
Right, the feast. We'll definitely circle back to that grim reality in a bit. But let's move from the playroom to the armory, which is Area 27. This really feels like the payout room for the martial characters.
Oh, it's a candy store for fighters. The hobgoblins are a military force, and their armory proves it. We aren't finding rusted goblin junk in here. We are finding suits of plate mail, both man-sized and dwarf-sized, chainmail, including elf-sized suits, shields, proper weapons.
I think we need to contextualize this for the listener, though. If you're a level 1 fighter walking around in leather armor or maybe some battered chainmail, finding a pristine suit of plate mail is, well, it's huge, right?
It changes the game math entirely. Plate mail is incredibly expensive in town. It's heady. To find a suit just sitting there on a rack, that is a massive upgrade to your armor class. You go from getting hit 50% of the time to getting hit maybe 20% of the time.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
But there's a subtle detail in the inventory list there that I found really fascinating. Amongst the normal arrows, there are exactly 14 with silver heads.
Yes. Silver arrows. Now, why silver? The module doesn't explicitly say to use them here.
No, it doesn't. But think about the broader context of the Caves of Chaos and the wilderness around the keep. There are giant rats. There are potentially rats or other lycanthropes rumored to be in the area. Silver is the only thing that hurts certain monsters.
So you're saying the hobgoblins are stockpiling silver because they know what's out there in the canyon?
Exactly. They are prepared. They know that eventually they might run into something that steel just won't kill. It adds a whole other layer to their intelligence. They aren't just reacting to threats. They are actively planning for them.
And speaking of planning, the armory has a secret feature.
It does. A secret door.
Where does it go?
Directly to the chief's quarters.
Of course it does.
It makes perfect tactical sense. If the chief needs reinforcements, he can call them from the armory instantly. But more importantly, if the chief needs to flee, he slips through the secret door, grabs a silver arrow or 2 on his way out, and disappears. It connects the boss room directly to the military hub.
Which brings us back to that eco-politics theme we touched on earlier. We mentioned the storeroom, Area 28. Usually a storeroom is just a place to find 50 pounds of stale rations. Boring. But here it tells a story.
It really does. The room is filled with stolen goods, cloth, food, beer, wine. But the text explicitly states the hobgoblins steal these supplies from the stupid goblins in Area D.
So they're just relentlessly bullying them?
Relentlessly. There's a secret door connecting the hobgoblin storeroom straight to the goblin lair. The hobgoblins sneak in, take the best food and drink, and sneak back out.
That is fantastic world building. It adds this layer of petty tyranny to the hobgoblins. They aren't just evil to humans, they're absolute jerks to their own allies.
And it creates a brilliant, dynamic encounter opportunity. The source notes say that if the players haven't cleared the goblin lair yet, there's a chance they will catch a raiding party of 4 hobgoblins coming right through that secret door carrying stolen loot.
Just imagine that scene as a player. You're looting the storeroom, thinking you're safe, and suddenly the wall slides open and 4 hobgoblins walk in holding barrels of goblin beer.
It's those exact moments that make a dungeon feel like a living, breathing place,
Yeah.
rather than just a static map on a table.
Hmm.
It shows the daily life of the inhabitants. They have chores, they go on raids, they have happy hour.
Okay, so we've breached the door, survived the playroom, looted the armory, and uncovered the goblin bullying ring. Now it's time for the main event. Area 30, the chief's quarters.
The boss fight. And make no mistake, at level 1 or 2, this guy is an absolute tank.
Let's look at the stats. What are we dealing with here?
He has an armor class of 2.
Whoa, AC 2. For the non-math heavy listeners, put that in perspective for an old school game.
In modern terms, that's like trying to hit a tank with a slingshot. He's wearing plate mail and using a shield. He is incredibly hard to land a blow on. On top of that, he fights like a 5-hit die monster. And he has a massive damage bonus because of his sheer strength. If he hits a wizard or a thief, you're likely going down in one single swing.
And he's not alone in the room, is he?
No, he's not. He has an entourage. 4 large female hobgoblins. And the text notes this is crucial, that they fight just as well as the males. So you aren't fighting one boss with some weak minions. You're facing 5 heavy hitters all in one room.
And the chief is smart. We already established he has an escape route.
He does. The source emphasizes that he knows about that secret door to the armory. If the fight turns against him, he's gone. He's not going to fight to the death just for the sake of it if he doesn't have to. He's a survivor.
But if you do manage to take him down the loot, we have to talk about the loot in this room.
The loot is significant. First, you have the visible wealth. He's wearing a silver belt studded with gems. He has platinum in his purse. He looks rich, and he is.
But the real treasure is hidden.
It is. There's a huge iron box in the room. If you open it, it just looks like it's filled with mangy skins. Just garbage, seemingly.
I can totally see players just ignoring that. Just saying, ugh, old furs, moving on, let's check the next room.
Exactly. But it has a false bottom. That's where the real coinage is hidden. And there's a potion of poison in there, too.
A potion of poison. Classic. Let me guess, it isn't labeled poison.
Of course not. It probably looks exactly like a healing potion. That's the classic trust no one lesson of old school design. But the real piece de resistance, the item that every old school player remembers about this specific room, isn't even in the box.
No, it's over in the fireplace.
Near the fireplace, yeah. In a heap of kindling wood.
Just a pile of sticks.
It's just a pile of sticks. But concealed inside that kindling is a wand of paralyzation.
A wand of paralyzation. That is a massively high-level item for this module.
It is huge. It has 7 charges. This thing can freeze a monster completely in its tracks. But think about where it is physically located. It's in the kindling.
So if a player says, I want to light a fire to smoke them out.
Or I cast fireball, or I burn the trash in the room. If you burn the kindling without searching it first, you destroy one of the most powerful items in the entire module.
That is just mean.
It's the game teaching you to pay attention to detail. It rewards the curious and severely punishes the arsonists. It's a harsh lesson, but you'll never forget it once it happens to you.
So when we step back and look at Area F as a whole, we've cleared the lair, we freed the merchant, hopefully we didn't free the gnoll, we got the silver arrows, and we found the wand before we burned it. What are we really looking at here? What is the core design intent?
We are looking at a test. If the kobold lair is a basic tutorial, and the orc lair is a chaotic brawl, the hobgoblin lair is a rigorous tactical exam. It tests your ability to deal with high armor class enemies. It tests your ability to handle organized, fast-moving reinforcements. It tests your crowd control management against things like that whip.
And it absolutely tests your morality and judgment with the prisoners.
Exactly. It forces you to make value judgments under immense pressure. But there is a darker layer here that we alluded to earlier, the feast.
Right. The sign says, we'd like to have you for dinner. The merchant and his wife were scheduled to be eaten tonight.
When you walk into the common room, it's literally set up with tables. The place is being ready for a banquet. You are interrupting meal prep. And the meal isn't some extra rations they found, it's people. The horror of that is somewhat glossed over by the tactical fun of the combat, but if you stop and really think about it, this is a rescue mission with a literal ticking clock.
It's genuinely chilling. I mean, if the players had decided to take a long rest outside the cave before entering...
They might have walked in to find empty chains in the torture chamber.
Yeah.
And a very full, very satisfied chief.
That puts a really grim spin on things. Before we wrap up, there's one other connection I wanted to touch on from the sources. We mentioned the goblins and the bullying, but isn't there another major connection in the caves?
There is. The ogre.
Right, the ogre in Area E.
The source material mentions, just in passing, that the hobgoblins have a tenuous alliance with the ogre. They sometimes hire him as a mercenary for their bigger operations.
So if you go in and disrupt the hobgoblins,
That's the big question, isn't it? The hobgoblins are the primary stabilizing force in the Caves of Chaos. They're the disciplined army. They keep the goblins in check. They emplay the ogre. They rival the orcs for sheer power. If you wipe them out, what happens to that power vacuum?
does the ogre just go rogue and start smashing everything? Do the orcs expand their territory?
Or do the goblins finally run wild without their bullies there to keep them down? It's a fascinating question for a group to ponder. You might solve one immediate problem by clearing the hobgoblins, but you inadvertently create a massive chaotic mess in the process.
Which I suppose is exactly why they call them the Caves of Chaos in the first place.
Indeed it is.
Well, next time you see a polite sign on a dungeon door, maybe think twice before knocking. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Stay safe out there.